It's a very nice day in the area where we are around Portland, Oregon, and so we're going to take a drive up and see Bonneville Dam and the big sturgeon named Herman. We see Mount Hood shining like the gem it is in the background as we pass through Portland. We will be visiting the Bonneville Dam area today, and it was started by Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1933, being finished in 1938. It was to generate lots of electricity for flood control and navigation on the Columbia River. The Bonneville Dam was part of Roosevelt's New Deal to give jobs to people to get us out of the Great Depression. Bonneville is the dam that's the lowest on the Columbia River and was the first of many dams to be built to harness the mighty Columbia River. Even though it's a nice sunny day, that wind is blowing like crazy up through the gorge. This is what they call the gorge wind. We pass by Multnomah Falls and several other very interesting sights as we steer a course toward Bonneville Dam. We go right past Multnomah Falls, and we can see the wind whipping the water from the falls as we go by, and the Columbia River is really choppy today. I don't see a single boat out on it either. It wouldn't be that pleasant out there. Past Multnomah Falls, the #1 tourist destination in Oregon, with the wind whipping the water around, something terrific. As we go on up the gorge, we see a train, and they make those trains really big here going up the Columbia River Gorge. This is the easy way to get through the Cascade Mountain Range, and so there's a lot of railroad traffic as well as vehicle traffic going up the Columbia River Gorge. And here's where we exit the freeway and go back under the freeway to go down and check out everything below Bonneville Dam. There's an early fish hatchery here. There's a few choices we can take here on the roads, and we chose to go to Bonneville Dam, and then when we get under the freeway, there's another fork that says Bonneville Fish Hatchery, and this fish hatchery is the oldest state fish hatchery in Oregon and also the largest. So we're going to visit it. We will travel down a tree-lined road with some absolutely huge rhododendron trees alongside the road as we near the fish hatchery. The flag is flying at half-mast for President Jimmy Carter's funeral. We'll navigate through a few roads till we come to the Fish Hatchery Visitor Center, which we definitely want to take in. This fish hatchery has a never-ending string of ponds to rear little fish in. This particular pond has baby fish that the egg sac has just recently dissolved from it, and they're out here in their covered ponds. And the reason for the netting over the pond is to keep predation down from birds that come by. The kingfishers really love to fish in these ponds if they can, as well as blue heron and probably other birds. There are many rows of these little tanks to rear the fish in as we walk along. There's just row after row of them. And so they have different size fish and different species of fish. Then we come to a rather natural pond which has some rainbow trout adults in it, which are really nice and big. And there's a place there where you can buy a little bit of fish feed and even feed them. So that's why they're so gentle. These fish are swimming around begging someone to throw them out some feed, and there's a pair of mallard ducks in the pond. It's a drake and a hen, and they probably wouldn't say no to a nice handful of that fish feed either. The ducks are following me around. I guess they thought I looked like a pushover, but I've got news for them. I don't have a cent of change on me, and the place where you get the food, you have to put a quarter or a dime or whatever in the little machine for any food will come out. So I guess you ducks are out of luck right now. And the fish would certainly love a little bit of food too, but they look like they're fat and sassy, so I won't bother to go any place and get some change. Marge has gone to the gift shop. They've got 50% off their woman's jewelry and stuff in there, so she's in there shopping, and that can take her forever. So rather than just sit there and wait for her to make her mind up, I go ahead on out and look the fish situation over, which is really, really nice, I think. And the sign says they are rainbow trout. And there's sure a bunch of them in here, and they all look in extremely good shape too. I moved from one pond to the other, and I've made some permanent friends here with those mallard ducks. When I'd move to a different pond, they just pick up their little wings and come over and join me. I would think that'd be a little dangerous swimming with that many trout, but it doesn't seem to be a concern for the ducks. And then we see a bench with a very nice cutout of a white sturgeon on it, and so there's a sturgeon pond here, and we can go down the stairs and there's glass in there that we can peek through and see the sturgeon. We can see several sturgeon in the sturgeon pond, and there's one particular sturgeon that I definitely want to see, and his name is Herman. Herman is over 10 feet long and weighs about 500 pounds and is over 80 years old, and he resides here at Bonneville Dam. The white sturgeon, when they're out in the wild, they can get to be about 20 feet long and weigh about 1,800 pounds. That's really big for a fish, but they're one of the fish that can do it. And they not only live here in the Columbia River, they can't get above Bonneville Dam now because sturgeon don't use fish ladders, so they can go to Bonneville Dam, and then sometimes they go out to sea. There have been some fish that have been caught here and tagged, and a week later they're found in places like Alaska. So they're big travelers. There are a few windows that you can look through and watch the sturgeon as they swim in almost their natural habitat. People from all over the world stand here and watch these giant, beautiful fish as they cruise around in their own little area.
The sturgeon originated 100 to 200 million years ago during the Jurassic era and are truly a dinosaur of a fish. There are 23 species of sturgeon worldwide in the northern hemisphere. 7 species are found in North America, with only 2 species, white sturgeon and green sturgeon, found on the west coast. Sturgeon are a premier game fish for sport anglers and a valuable species for commercial fisheries. The green sturgeon is primarily a marine estuary fish, rarely found more than 40 miles upriver into the Columbia. The green sturgeon rarely exceeds 7 feet in length, and the catch is only several thousand each year. White sturgeon can be found from California to Alaska and inland throughout the Columbia River system. White sturgeon are numerous and commonly reach 9 feet in length and can become quite large, up to 20 feet and 1,800 pounds. Male white sturgeon do not spawn until they reach 4 feet in length, and female spawn beginning at 6 feet in length.
And here comes Herman, all 500 pounds of him, cruising by the window to give people a look at what a really big sturgeon looks like, although they grow much older and much bigger than Herman. They're sort of a prehistoric, very primitive fish, and here comes Herman cruising by. He's got a face that you can't help but love, and he's got a really big body and great big fins and tail to propel him through the waters of the Columbia River. Although he's not in the Columbia right now, he's in a pond especially built for sturgeon. This is an excellent chance to view sturgeon as they would swim around leisurely on the bottom of the Columbia River, but in here they've tried to duplicate what the river bottoms would look like, and so it gives the tourists that aren't familiar with sturgeon a very good idea of what they do and how they do it. They most definitely are a favorite of the people that like to take pictures on their cell phone of these giant prehistoric animals as they swim as they would more or less in the wild. People from all over the world show up here with their cameras to take pictures from these windows of these giant sturgeon.
And white sturgeon. The largest one is Herman. Herman is approximately 10 feet long, 500 pounds, and 85 years old. The white sturgeon is the largest freshwater fish species in North America and can reach lengths of almost 20 feet, can weigh up to 1,000 pounds, and they may live. Bonneville Fish Hatchery began operation in 1909. Central Hatchery. The facility is operated by the Oregon Department of Wildlife and funded by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and NOAA Fisheries. There have been 2 expansions since the hatchery was originally built. This area is listed on the National Historic Register. Be sure to visit our trout show ponds and feed the rainbow trout for a quarter. The proceeds go to the upkeep of over 7 acres of hatchery grounds, which include over 90 rose bushes and 5,000 flowers grown annually. Also be sure to visit our spawning room, which has many more informative exhibits and a video to watch for your enjoyment.
Oh yeah. Jay. That must be Herman. I think those cut up fish that were over there.
What is it that Stephen goes hunting fishing for?
Steelhead.
Steelhead. Aren't those little steelhead? Right there. Look at that great big one that's laying over there. Darn. He's humongous.
Yeah, we saw him from the inside. See, there's the glass. There's the glass we were looking through. See, there's people's heads.
So he's the one. Sturgeon range throughout the Columbia River system. However, the construction of Bonneville Dam and other dams upstream block sturgeon migration. Sturgeon, unlike salmon, do not use fish ladders. Sturgeon below Bonneville Dam travel up and down the Columbia and even out into the ocean, often entering other coastal bays and rivers. Sturgeon migration depends on availability of food and spawning cycles. Sturgeon need fast-flowing water of moderate temperature over rocky bottoms for spawning success. An ideal spawning area is located just several miles below Bonneville Dam.
We can wander around on paved trails through some old growth Douglas fir. Really nice big ones. And there are fish ponds every place you look. The trails lead us to row after row of fish rearing ponds, and they have different size fish in them as they bring them up from little tiny babies to big enough to transplant in the river. Some of the ponds are drained for cleaning. There's one frozen marge in front of a big sturgeon cut out.
Welcome to Bonneville Hatchery. Bonneville Hatchery, one of the oldest in the state, has operated here since 1909. For your convenience, the site map can orient you to areas of interest on the hatchery grounds. Have a pleasant day at Bonneville. Do you want to have, look, you want to know what the hatchery mission is? Look. Hatcheries play a vital role in maintaining Oregon's natural resource heritage by providing fish for harvest and enhancing native fish populations for the benefit of present and future generations.
Now we'll get in our pickup and drive around the fish hatchery out to the end of Bradford Island and look at the areas where we at one time used to fish for sturgeon, past the big locks which are there to haul tugs and barges up and down the river. They haul a lot of wheat through here from up in the Columbia Basin. The road winds through right next to the powerhouse, and you can see the evidence of a lot of electrical generation on top of the building. Ships that go up and tugs that go up the river. We go right up next to the dam and around the dam for a little ways. I think this building that we're going along right up next to is called the powerhouse, where they have the huge turbines that generate the much electricity that's used all over the country, even some sent to California. Past the big locks again, another big lock, and then on along the powerhouse. The road clatters and bangs a little bit as we go along it because some of it is metal and there are a lot of removable hatches on it and even some tracks going down it for different purposes. But that's a wonderful opportunity to see the dam from up close. We can see the river downstream as we make our way around to the dam visitor center. Instead of going in to the dam itself, we're going to go around it and look at the area where we used to go sturgeon fishing back in the 80s and 90s, where you could keep a sturgeon up to 6 foot long. Wow, what a fish that would be. Then we have an excellent view of the spillways for the dam. It doesn't look as though they're generating a whole lot of electricity today because there's not a lot of water running over the spillway. And here's the area where we'd sturgeon fish. We'd walk down next to the river and there was a great huge rock there that we'd stand on where we could cast out there, and you needed to be able to cast about 100 yards to be in good sturgeon area. This area is called Bradford Fishing Access Area, Bradford Island, and you can look across to Washington and there are power lines all over the place. So we'll drive by this area where we used to fish and go clear to the end of the island. We can look back at the dam and see the spillways pouring gallons of water back into the Columbia River. The sturgeon just love to lay right under these spillways, and that way they can catch all the dead and dying fish that might get cut up in the turbines, and they can live the high life. We go to the end of the island and see where a beaver has been changing the architecture of the place a little bit by gnawing off a few little poplar trees. They take huge chips out with those powerful jaws and those great huge teeth, and they have to keep chewing, otherwise their teeth grow out so long they can't use them. And here's some of the chips that he's chipped out on the cottonwood trees. They're really big chips, and it really doesn't take him long to cut down a tree like that and then cut it up and haul it to the river for food. Well, we've looked clear to the end of the island, so now we're going to go back and take a look at the fish ladders inside the visitor center at Bonneville Dam. More water spilling out several spillways here back into the mighty Columbia River. As we drive along, we can see the beginning of the fish ladders which carry the salmon up over the dam and back into the Columbia
Turbine. For nearly 60 years, this turbine helped make power at Bonneville Dam. Throughout these years, it has meant different things to different people at different times. During installation, it meant jobs to help people recover from the Great Depression. A few years later, it helped provide power to build aircraft and ships for World War II. After the war, it helped the Northwest economy grow and prosper. This turbine was from Unit 3, while running it continuously, helped generate power for about 25,000 homes.
So now we'll go in the visitor center and see if there might be a chance there's some fish in the fish ladder. But we find that it's the wrong time of year. Now we will go in to the visitor center right in the dam and see if we can see any fish in the fish ladder as they're making their way upstream. There are books here that'll tell you what fish through, but there's not a single fish of any kind going through there today. It's just the wrong time of year to find the salmon migration. So we'll just have to get by thumbing through their books they have here for identification and looking at some pictures. And what a group of salmon migrate through. So we'll just have to get by with looking at some fish pictures that help you identify the different kinds of salmon when they're migrating through. And there are plenty of different species. How nice it would have been to see a fish going through the fish ladder, but that didn't happen today. We'll try it again at a little bit later time when the fish runs are in. Meanwhile, we'll go take a look at their little museum. Just a few exhibits of things here in a showcase, as well as some neat exhibits outside. There's even a gift shop here too, where you can buy a few books and some souvenirs. I'll go outside and take a look at the outside exhibit. Here is an old fire truck for Bonneville Dam, and it looks like it was an open air job. I think most of the old fire trucks were open air, and I don't know the reason for that, unless it was just cheaper to buy them that way. Then we see some exhibits of some of the rocks. These were grinding rocks, or called mortars, and they were probably brought up here to keep them from being destroyed underwater as they built the dam.